Hey everybody, I'm Maritza Barone, and this is the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you heard or read or were told something that you simply could not unhear? Something that caused you to make positive changes so that you could become the best version of yourself? Well, we share this show with access to inspiring and empowering humans who will motivate you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate you. Sit back, settle in, and let this be the day you hear something that simply cannot be unheard. Hello and welcome to Things You Can't Unhear. I'm Maritza, your host and creator of the show. And today, people, we are blessed to have another conversation with the formidable Dr. John Demartini, who is very quickly becoming one of my favorite humans on planet Earth. I actually visualize him like a little bottle filled with endless inspirational energy and motivation that leads us to becoming and living our best lives. Someone who is so clear on his purpose path and is consistently and persistently working on his highest goal to help others do the same. During this chat, we discuss ways to achieve life mastery in all aspects of our life, through our work, our family life, our health, our financial abundance, and more. We discuss also how critical it is to understand who you are at the deepest level to be able to thrive and live at your peak. If you are someone who wants to master their mind, find and live in their unique genius, and achieve your life mission, make sure you hit play on this episode. Dr. Demartini has recently released a new book, which I think is his 41st self-empowerment book. It's called The 7 Secret Treasures, and it's a transformational blueprint for a well-lived life that will help you reacquaint with the power you already have within and show you the way to the powerful life-transforming tools and principles you may never know existed. So let's jump into another life-changing chat with Dr. Demartini. Just before we do, a quick note to say that I love sharing inspirational voices on this podcast and also on the many others that I help to produce. And I have just launched the Guide Your Light Network, featuring podcasts with purpose, sharing conversations that matter with voices that matter. So if you are someone who has an important message to share, someone who is purpose-led, heart-led, impact-led, and wants to create a podcast of your own and needs help to bring that to life, I would love to chat to you. Please check out guideyourlightnetwork.com. I've just released a new course online where you can learn to successfully launch a purpose-led podcast. I hope to see you there. Welcome back to Things You Can't Unhear, Dr. Demartini. Thank you for being here again. What a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Last time you were sailing the seas of Scotland. Is that still the case?
No, I had to get off the ship in Sicily and go to Zurich and then Munich, and now I'm in Houston doing presentations and did a thing in Los Angeles today. But I'm back in Houston right now. So I'm here and I'm having dinner with my daughter tonight.
Oh, excellent. Beautiful. And you're on solid ground. So
that's rare now.
Well, last interview, we talked a lot about delegation and how it was the key to a lot of your personal success. And since then, I've actually been implementing that quite a lot in my own personal life and business. And it's been a bit of a game changer, actually, a complete game changer in moving forward, getting things done. So thank you for that, firstly. Today, I want to jump into the topic, though, of self-mastery. So really learning how us mere mortals can achieve self-mastery in all aspects of our life, because you do say that this is possible. So when we talk about self-mastery, I think the first question I want to ask is, what does that actually mean to you?
Well, it's going to mean something different to everyone. So what it means to me is one component. Every human being has a set of priorities, a set of values that they run their life by. And whatever is highest on that value, their identity revolves around. Their ontological identity revolves around. Their teleological purpose revolves around. And even their epistemological pursuit of knowledge revolves around. Whatever that is that's meaningful to them, whether that be raising a beautiful family, whether it be making a creative business, whether it be an intellectual pursuit or a scholarly academic, a spiritual quest, a physical fitness, a social cause, or having a magnificent relationship. Whatever that is to that individual, the mastery is to pursue what is truly deeply meaningful and important and structure your life so you fulfill it. And of course, because there's a hierarchy of values, there'll be different layers of that in the different areas of life and how it will look. But mastery is an intrinsically designed pursuit that everybody has the capacity to uniquely fulfill.
Yes. And I love how you talk about in your work, really getting to know yourself at a core level before you can then master your life and master what you need to do in your life and what you want to do in your life. So getting to know ourselves, being authentic to who we are really helps us to shine, doesn't it? It helps us to identify what steps we need to take and not compare ourselves to other people.
Well, I actually believe, from my observation over the 5 decades of studying and researching and teaching, is that everything that's going on in our life is actually a feedback mechanism to assist us in expressing our authentic being. All of the symptoms, I've been studying physiology all these years, and I'm now convinced that all the intro and exteroceptive input that our senses internally or externally bring to us is giving us feedback, homeostatic feedback, to make sure we're in that authentic state where we maximum perform and we're most intrinsically driven. Our business is doing that. Our social friendships are doing this. Our relationships are doing this. Our economics are doing this. Our health is doing this. Our intuition is doing this. Our feedback on our gratitude is doing this. Everything is trying to get us authentic. And when we're not, we exaggerate ourselves or minimize ourselves. We get symptoms to let us know that's not us. We're not here to be proud and cocky and superior and look down and try to get others to live in our values. We're not here to be minimizing ourselves and humble and looking up to people and putting people on pedestals. We're here to communicate our magnificence in terms of other people's magnificence in a sustainable, fair exchange manner, where there's reflective awareness instead of deflections and superiorities and inferiority complexes.
Yeah, that's so true. I think about, the symptoms. I've just launched a wonderful online course and I put heart and soul into launching this. And then you get it out into the world and you're waiting for, the response to what you've created. And then when you get a positive response, man, it feels good. But when there's a lull or some quiet days, that anxiety peaks and that comparison and that self-judgment just comes through, doesn't it? And so these are, like, I'm listening to your words, and these are true, like, indicators of how we should be perceiving things and responding.
Well, if we exaggerate ourselves with our superiority complex, we'll set too big a goal in too short a time frame and have unrealistic expectations and immediate gratifications instead of patience. And if we minimize ourselves, we'll set the opposite. We'll set too small a goal in too long a time frames and exceed it. And both of those are, feedback systems to guide us to set real goals in real times that are authentic. And we get to know what our strategies will produce. I had a dream to travel the world and step foot on every country on the face of the earth and share and since I was 17. I didn't know how long it was going to take. I'm doing it 50 years. I've got 181 countries accomplished now. And I still got probably 30 something to go, but 50 years. You could say I'm a slow learner. But you could say, no, that's pretty cool. So realistic expectations are not based on magnitudes, based on the strategy you have and the persistence you have. If you something really important, you'll persist on it. You'll just keep building momentum. And if you'll use everything that goes on as feedback to refine what you're doing to make it more effective and efficient tomorrow. Yeah.
Persistence and consistency and just keep going at it, right? That's that passion. I think, go on.
I feel that I would say if you keep doing it long enough, everybody else dies out and you're at the top.
I love that. I love that we're talking about this. And I love that I've noticed the younger generation are implementing these strategies into their businesses earlier on because, they're taking bigger steps earlier on in life to reach their purpose, live at their optimal levels. And I feel like, the older generation has so many behaviors that we've inherited that we've had to unlearn along the way. Are you finding this with the younger generation as well?
Well, I think that's the nature of the game. We didn't have a car at one time in 1900, first to 1900. Now everybody's got a car. We didn't have a telephone. Everybody's got a telephone. So I think innovation and creativity is an emerging system, and it makes some things obsolete and other things become profound. And I think that's in the nature of the game. I mean, our grandparents probably thought, they can't keep up with this. Our parents, it's just generation after generation. The things that the kids are able to do now on the internet, it's like a struggle for me sometimes. I learned a long time ago, as we've talked about, delegate everything that you require outside motivation to do that you're not inspired by, and let other people who are motivated and inspired to do that, do it. And let me be free to do what I'm masterful at, my core competency. And that's not a lot. It's me. It's teaching, researching, writing, and traveling. That's about it. Outside that, I delegate.
Yeah, I love that so much. So when we link back to self-mastery, you don't believe there's a one-size-fits-all approach to self-mastery, because you believe it's about finding who you are and implementing strategies. So, I mean, you look at Robin Sharma's approach, the 5 a.m. club, and I've watched my husband do this. You wake at 5 a.m., I think it was move, reflect, and grow. That was the strategy. And all before, from 5 a.m., in between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., before children wake up. Obviously, that's not going to be working for everyone, is it? I mean, that's an approach that is unique to certain individuals and who are potentially morning people, don't have young kids, all of the other elements that tie into it, don't, thrive at that optimal level at that particular time, whatever it is. So yeah, we want sort of life hacks from you, Dr. Demartini, life hacks on how we can really, find our self-mastery through personal knowing, inner knowing.
Well, it depends on your pursuit and career. I don't know if that would be a universal truth. Get up at 5 a.m. I sometimes don't even finish my seminars till 5 or 6 a.m. Last week I was in Australia, even though I was in another country. I didn't finish till 6 a.m. So I was getting up at 2 p.m. or something like that, or 1 p.m. and starting my day. So I don't know if that's true, but when you're inspired by what you do, you can't wait to get up and do it. So I think Robin is a good example. He loves what he does, and he's an early morning person, and he does that. And that's not wrong, and it will fit some people.
Absolutely.
I can't say that that's not going to fit everyone. I have a girlfriend who is in Turkey, and she does singing and performing and acting and modeling and stuff like that. And a lot of times she'll sing at a club until 4 a.m. She'll be out there doing it. So she's going to bed at the time he's getting up. And so I don't know. I think you have to put it into context, and that same principle may apply, but it may be a different time zone. Yes. Even though there's circadian rhythms and things for some people. And mine is, I'm in India, and then Japan, and then Sri Lanka and Africa. I'm all over the place every week. I'm in 6 different time zones in a week sometimes. And I'm supposed to be, screwed up for time zones. Maybe that's why I've got my sense of humor is so crazy. But the point is that I can't say that I would follow that timetable because of my schedule. That wouldn't work for me, because I made a commitment to be in every planet, all over the planet, and time zones, particularly in Zoom, are all over the planet. So, but that's a great principle of having some routine, having a discipline, doing something you love to do that you can't wait to do. I think that's still true, what Robin's saying, but I don't know if it's always 5 a.m. because there's many people that start midday and do extraordinary things in weird hours.
That's very true. I mean, you read a lot of self-help books, I do anyway, and there's some that really align to your level of thinking or really spark something special in you. And there's others that are really going to be special for someone else. And it's, it is about learning who you are, finding what suits you, and, getting yourself on that pathway to self-mastery and being your best self.
And be honest about yourself. Metric your achievements. I mean, look at what's working and what's not working for you. I'm the kind of thing where I delegate sleep to other people. I'd rather just let them take care of that. so I can just keep going. I'd much rather stay awake all day. But I found out that, my girlfriend likes to sleep sometimes. And so I do that, these kind of things. But I don't know if there's a one size fits all system on achievement, because there are great people and great achievers that do different things. And I've been studying people that do extraordinary things, all the Nobel Prize winners, all the great philosophers, all the great leaders. I've been studying that for 50 years. I can't say there's one shot they all followed. But one thing they did have was perseverance. They stayed doing something and built incremental momentum, doing something they loved doing. So that was more common than exactly what time they got up or what time they went to bed or that kind of thing. Although that's not an unwise thing to maybe consider. I think getting up early in the morning and starting a fresh day and seeing the sunrise, and I don't think that's an unwise thing, but I can't say that everybody's going to be leading the pack only that way.
Yeah. All right. Everyone, you've heard it here many times with Dr. Demartini, is consistency and persistency. So if you're doing something and it's showing elements of working, keep going, and then keep going. As long as the passion's still there, keep going. What about taking that next step? Something's working and you want to move it forward into an even wider audience, a wider community, a wider whatever it is that you are currently building. Does the angle of getting out of your comfort zone help you to take that next step? So, obviously, if you're sitting in that same position and you're just trying the same thing over and over again and it's working, but then how do you then expand? Tell me sort of some steps that potentially people have taken in your realm, or what you'd suggest.
Well, when the why is big enough, the house will take care of themselves. If you got a big enough reason for doing something, if it's not working, you'll try something else. You'll just keep doing whatever it takes to get to the goal that you're wanting. I set out to bring messages or a message across the world, right? So I sat down and I wrote down what are all the vehicles to getting a message across the world. Okay, so I wrote down writing books, articles, radio, TV, movies, podcasts, webinars, seminars, travel, workshops. I wrote out every possible thing an individual could do. Elevator seminars, restaurant seminars. I wrote every possible thing. Talk to anybody who doesn't want to hear it even, and just talk. I wrote every possible way to get a message out there. And I wrote them all down and I said, okay, let's go. And I started doing all those things and then asking what's working and what's not working along the way. I hired publicists. I hired people that with editing. I just kept refining it as I went and metricing how many people were doing it. I haven't hired a company that would metric when I do an article, how many people are reading it? When I do a TV show, how many people are watching it? When I do a book, how many people are reading it? I metric that to see what's working and how many people are reaching. And I didn't stop towards that objective. I just kept looking. And as new medias come up and new social medias and new ways of doing things, I just did a conference today, 50 million people just today. And it would, the Los Angeles Tribune put this out across the television networks, boom, and sponsored this event on neuroscience. And it went around the world. So I just kept methodically asking, what are the highest priority ways of getting what my goal is, of bringing a message out into the world and sharing? And lo and behold, after a while, you build momentum. Incremental momentum is unstoppable after a while. But you just, at first, it's like compound interest. At first, it's kind of slow, but after a while, it's vertical. It's the eighth wonder of the world, as Einstein said. And I think incremental momentum and building incremental momentum that's unstoppable is a very hard thing to stop. You can't, it moves. So I just keep doing it. I do 5 podcasts in a day. I did 2 seminars a day, 3 podcasts, 2 consults, and I got another one tonight.
It's so inspiring hearing you talk like that. That this is that fire, that passion, that this is self-mastery to me. That's exactly what that is. Being relentless
well, I'm useless everywhere else. So I might as well do something I can do something with it.
I doubt that very much.
If you put me in front of a kitchen and tried to cook, I'd be like, I don't know what to do here. I'm an idiot there.
Burn water.
But I can pour water.
Burn water, I said.
Pour water. But I realize that where my talent is, and I just stick to my talent and let it build momentum. But I don't try to, anything that requires motivation, I delegate. That's simple. I only do the thing that inspires me intrinsically from within that I love doing. So my energy is on fire every day.
Yeah.
If you're grateful for what you're doing, you love what you're doing, you're inspired by the vision of it, you're enthusiastically working towards it, and you're certain about what you're delivering, and you're present while you do it, magic occurs. There's really magical things, because I think everybody wants to be able to express that kind of life. And when they see that, they rally around it and they help you get what you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. Very, very, very inspiring. Now, you've just released another book. Is this around your 40th self-help book, would you say?
I think this is 41. I got 2 more coming out in the next couple of months, and I'll have about 10 in the next couple of years here, more new ones. But I've been writing books. I mean, when manuscripts and workshop manuals, everything else, there's over 300 of them.
Yes.
So I'm constantly writing.
Yeah.
But these are self-help books. And they asked me, a publisher said, can you put out some more of them? You haven't been in a while. And I said, I've been so busy. And so we're putting out some other ones. And the first one is the 7 Secret Treasures. And that is how to awaken the skills and talents to empower all the 7 areas of life. I mean, I set out when I was 18. I was watching Kung Fu. David Carradine on the show Kung Fu. It's a weekly show. And it's this martial art guy that has this philosophical view in life, who stayed in these Shaolin temples and is trying to teach kind of a stable and inspired life. I thought that's kind of cool. I like that. And he was talking about his master. And I thought, wow, I want to be a master. I was 18 and I didn't know what that meant, but it sounded cool. So I wrote down master. I looked it up and they go, one who is masterfully skilled in something and they become great at it. And so I said, okay, what does a mastered life look like? And I broke life into 7 areas. Your spiritual quest, whatever inspires you, not necessarily religion, it could be, but whatever inspires you, your mind development quest, your career, your finances, your family, your social, your physical. And I sat down and I said, I want to create original ideas that serve human beings across the planet. That was one. I wanted to create a global business that I had students from every country in the world. I wrote that out. I wanted to be financially independent where my money is making me more money than I could be doing working. And I'm doing work only because I love to. I want to have a global family where I don't live in any one place. As you know, I live on a ship that goes around the world. So that way, every country is a room in the house and all the world is my family. I want to have a social influence where I got to meet amazing people that were in different fields. They were leaders in the field and hang out with them and break bread with them and have them as clients and interact with them. And I also want to have a vital body, an energetic and inspired body. And I'm 68 now and I'm booming and still going at it. And I believe that's still doable. And then I wanted to create a movement that was inspiring, that wasn't religion, but any religion could be part of it, on how to be grateful for life and how to see the magnificence of daily life. That's what I had dreamed of. And I called that a masterful life. But that's just my version of it.
Oh, that's my version too. That's brilliant.
But nobody else has to follow that, but that's my version. And I also, from Albert Einstein, he said, the greatest teacher is exemplification. So I want to be a great teacher. So I want to exemplify that. So I set out a goal to go and learn every single thing I could in every field I could on how to master those 7 things. And I've expanded them since then, way more, because those are all being done. And I'm absolutely certain that a human being can live a really, truly magnificent and inspired life. And people laugh at it. I had this guy, I was doing a TV show and I was behind the curtain and then it was waiting for me a cue and I was to come out and sit on this couch next to him, kind of like an Oprah show. And he was I thought he was going to be, asking me certain questions and I was completely thrown off. He says, now, Dr. Demartini, you can't I see you have a new book out. It's called You Can Have an Amazing Life in 60 Days. Now, you can't possibly expect human beings to think they can change their life in 60 days. Now, I mean, really, isn't that just a bunch of hype? And he was kind of skeptical, which is really good because that really gives you a chance to elaborate. And I looked at him and I looked him straight right there. And I said to him, it would be impossible, absolutely impossible to convince me you can't change your life in 60 days. Sir, my life changed in 60 minutes with one man's message. One night when I was ready. And the moment I said that, I got a tear in my eye. And he did too. And he goes, I can see this is something more than what I was going to expect on this interview. So then let's go find out how do you do that. And at first he was the skeptic. At the end, he was promoting the book. And it was 60 things, action steps that a human being can do. I was asked, 25, 30 years ago, something like that. I was asked to do a thing with Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer. And we were going to go 365 days with a 5-minute message each day. And I did 125, each one did 125, and they took them and they were going to make a daily inspirational thing for everybody. And I recorded that. And then we transcribed that and turned it 60 of those 125 into a book. And it was the best 60 we thought. And we made that book out of it. These are practical things that a human being can do that can make a difference in their life. And I really believe those are things that are really useful and tangible that a human being, if they did it, gives them an advantage in life.
I agree with that.
And I'm a firm believer that it doesn't matter where you've been or what you've come from or what you've experienced. What matters is, are you now going to change trajectory and do the things that are proven to go and do something extraordinary with your life? If it is, it's your life.
And it's a flow-on effect, isn't it? I mean, all of that leads on to all of the other aspects of your life. life, such as health and well-being, which you mentioned. You're thriving at 68, you're full of energy. Tell us about how we integrate that into these 7 secret treasures.
Well, anytime you're living by your highest value, your blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain. Your forebrain, the medial prefrontal cortex, Scientific American is just defined as the seat of the self, just this last month. And therefore, you're most authentic. And in that, it is involved in foresight, strategic planning, mitigating risks, and spontaneous action. There's a thing called spontaneous potentials in the brain that fire off, that are not evoked by sensory experience. They're intrinsically called. And that is initiated when you're congruent with that. And it has nerve fibers that go down into the amygdala with glutamate and GABA, which are transmitters, stimulant and inhibitory. And it calms down the impulses and instincts of distraction that the amygdala tend to initiate. And all the subconscious baggage that we carry around dissolves away when we're living congruently according to what we value. When we do, our physiology, our homeostatic autonomic nervous system, and epigenetics remodel our cell physiology and maximizes the expression of the potential of the cell. It has a perfect balance and homeostasis occurs. So our maximum wellness occurs as a feedback, as a relying feedback to us to let us know when we're authentic. And the moment we're not authentic, we're proud, looking down, or shame, looking up, and sacrificing others for us, or sacrificing us for others, and trying to have futility instead of, in a sense, inspiration, we create symptoms in our body to let us know it. And the body and the psychology and our sociology and our business and all the things around us are actually interpreted as feedback to help us see life on the way, not in the way, to be authentic. And if the second we do, our vitality soars. And I always say that because the frontal cortex is also linked to the visual 5 and 6 of the occipital, and it sees associative areas of vision, and you see your vision. Those are the vision flourish. And so those with the vision also are vital and clear. Picture's worth 1,000 words, and you can articulate smoothly and congruently when you're fluent and when you're congruent with your highest values. So I constantly tell people to find out what's really important to you and don't waste your time on low priority things. Get on with what's meaningful to your life, and your life will reward you with vitality and the empowerment of these 7 areas of life.
That's so interesting, really is. And it links back to, what Dan Buettner was saying about the blue zones and people who are living authentically and in their purpose have longevity and live healthier, longer, more vibrant lives. They have that surrounding them. It fuels them, it keeps them going, it keeps their brains going. I know someone I spoke to recently said they feel drained when they're bored. They feel drained of energy. They've got no energy. And yes, it does drain you when you're not living in that inspired state. And it has a flow-on effect to your health.
Well, if you're bored, I always say that if you meet somebody that's exactly like you and they support you more than challenge you, you'll be bored. And if you meet somebody that's the opposite of you, you'll be burned out. And boredom and burnout is a seeking and avoiding mechanism of our amygdala. And so those are symptoms that are feedbacks to let us know we're pursuing something and avoiding something instead of honoring something. It's just a feedback system. And our vitality goes right back up the second we transcend that.
That's so cool. That's really, really interesting. I want to talk about financial wealth because that's something that pops up a lot too. And it's something that you've also touched on in this book because it's important. It is important for all of us. And again, it happens as a flow-on effect to finding your purpose. If financial struggles are there before starting, and delegation is a difficult thing to do because you can't finance the delegation. What are your little hacks for that or suggestions?
Well, most people think, well, when I get extra money, then I can afford to delegate. It's the other way around. If you delegate, you get more extra money. Most people don't understand that. Because if you're bogged down doing low priority things that devalue you, the world will devalue you with you. And if you're doing something that's uninspiring, it drains you, which also interferes with business growth. And you're robbing other people of job opportunities, which also stops the economy. And you're not in the mode where I can't wait to go to work. You're in a mode where I go, oh, I got to do that today. That's not the way to live. But if you can look at what it is that you absolutely love doing, that is truly a service and a contribution and a sustainable, fair exchange manner, and let other people do all the rest, you liberate yourself to get on and do something that produces more. I had an opportunity to work with a lady today in consulting who's up in Cincinnati, Ohio, I think it was. And she was a doctor, but she was doing administrative work and she was doing paperwork and she was paying bills and she was doing this. And I was just going, and she's burned out and she wants to stop and she doesn't want to do it anymore. I said, you're not wanting to stop being a doctor. You're wanting to stop being an administrator and managing all that stuff. You're capable of earning $1,500, $2,000 or more dollars an hour, and you're doing a $50 to $60 an hour job. That's why you're burned out. And she started crying. She goes, but I gave it to somebody who didn't do a decent job and it was even more stressful. And so I've held on to it. I said, for 22 years, I've been holding on to a job like that instead of, it's like going and getting a bad haircut and saying, I'm never going to cut my hair again. You get a bad hair day from a haircutter sometime, but you don't stop getting a haircut. You go to a different haircutter. So today she got re-inspired about finding somebody to do that because she realizes that she's not loving her job and she's thinking it's her profession. It's not. She's not doing her profession. She's doing a job that's not what she was designed to do. And she's uninspired. And she didn't know how to hire. She hired just somebody to save money instead of hire somebody who's a master of what you want to do, that frees you up, that's intrinsically driven to do it. So you can get on to do what you love to do to make way more income than what it costs to hire somebody to do it. So it's making sure you don't abnegate the information when you delegate it, but you liberate yourself from lower priority things and get on with the thing that really produces and that you love doing, that really serves people. If you do, you will always make more money, not less money.
And backing yourself, absolutely backing yourself from the beginning. I want to talk about self-worth and how it impacts the way we perceive things as well, because you talk a bit about this in the book as well. So I'd love to expand on that topic, if you will.
Yeah. Well, there's a thing called elevated self-esteem, where you're kind of puffed up and proud, cocky, superiority complex, inflated, and self-depreciated self-esteem, where you're deflated and kind of inferiority complex. These are the esteems. If you put those two esteems together and put them together and integrate them, you have true self-worth. When you puff yourself up, it's not you. When you beat yourself, it's not you. When you are you, it's in the center. And true self-worth is always the synthesis of those two oscillating states. If you see one without the other and blind to the other, you're unconscious of your self-depreciation when you're exaggerating, and you're unconscious of your self-appreciation when you're devaluing. But when you actually integrate them and ask questions to see both sides simultaneously, it centers you. And in that is where you grow the most. Now, when you live by your highest values, you're more objective, more neutral, and see both sides. When you're living by lower values, you go into your amygdala and you polarize it with subjective bias and you can't see things. You're blind to one side. So anytime you're designed to create symptoms there of vacillation and uncertainty and lack of confidence, and you end up brain loading off to other people who you go and ask questions to, instead of being confident in yourself. So all those symptoms of vacillation and superiority and inferiority complexes are just feedback mechanisms to make sure you go back to your true self-worth. When you live by your highest values, your self-worth goes up. When you live by lower values, it splits apart, it goes down, and you become unstable.
Identify your values. We talked about this briefly in the last interview that we had on Things You Can't Unhear. And you provided a free mechanism to identify your values. That's still up on your website, isn't it? So people can access it.
Yes, free. It's free and private.
Yeah. Tell us again, why is it so important to identify these values just one last time? Because for people who listen to it the first time and they haven't gone and done it and identified their values, you're hearing this again. This is Things You Can't Unhear twice.
Your highest value, your ontological identity revolves around it. I'll use an example. Let's say that you're a mother, 35 years old, you have 3 children under the age of 5, and your highest value is raising beautiful children. And if you dreamed about doing that, you have a lovely husband, his is about entrepreneurship, and he brings the bacon home, and you take care of those beautiful children. If you walk in a mall, your mind, because of your values, will filter out of that mall anything that allows you to help those children, children's education, children's health, children's entertainment, children's clothes, children's whatever. You'll filter your reality. There's a pulvinar nuclei in the thalamus that takes sensory information and filters it before it goes to the cortex to conscious level. And you will filter it out according to what you value. So your perceptions, the decisions you make based on that data, and the actions you take will always be according to your value structure. So knowing your hierarchy of values and knowing what's highest on your value is crucial to knowing oneself. And the thing you feel is your calling, your purpose, the thing that's most meaningful is also revolving around your highest value, because that's where you're spontaneous or inspired. And your epistemological knowledge, where you are most knowledgeable, where you're most skilled, and where you're going to excel most is based on your highest value. So that is where you're going to get excellence out of yourself, where you're going to have the most fulfillment. Aristotle called that highest value the telos, the end in mind. And all the other lower values means to that end as a feedback. Hartman called it derivative values below, and the highest value was the intrinsic value. This is the one that is spontaneously as you. I want people to know, knowing that and living according to that is so liberating, so freeing, and so empowering. That's why I put it on my website. I want people to know that they can do that. And it takes them 30 minutes of their time, and it's eye-opening. It's just eye-opening about what's really important. Because when you ask people, what is your values? Oh, they'll tell you integrity, truth, and peace, and all this social stuff. I'm interested in what your life demonstrates, not what you say. What is your life demonstrating? You're making decisions. I could say, oh, I want to be an international sex symbol, but my life doesn't demonstrate it. My life demonstrates teacher. The rest of it's delusion and fantasy.
I love that so much.
I thought I was going to have Hugh Hefner's position and have his mansion at the end or something like that, but that's all delusion and fantasy. What I actually have is teacher, and I spend my life teaching. So the rest of it's just delusion. And people have fantasies about their life, and then we can torture their life with it because they're comparing their current reality to fantasies, and they can never win. But if you find out what you really value and set goals that are congruent to that, you not only win, but you inspire other people to do the same, and it has a chain effect and leaves a mark. If you ask people, go to the moment when you've had the most fulfillment in your life, I guarantee it's the moment you did something that you're skilled at that serves other people, and they said thank you.
100%. 100%. It's revolutionary, really, and still also at the same time so simple. So go, everyone, go and listen, go and jump onto this website, do this values test, get to know yourself on a deeper level. And then those secret life treasures are going to come your way. Life will flow, things will begin to manifest. And once you've mapped out that intention plan, like Dr. Demartini did so well, and I'm going to go and do that again. I do it regularly, but it's always a good reminder to have these messages. And that's why we do ongoing podcasts, have the reminders, hear this again. So if you're hearing it again, you haven't done your values, go and do your values. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. One last point. So for those who are about to go out and try and achieve self-mastery at another level, just leave us with one lasting message, something that springs to mind for you right now.
Well, the magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasy you'll ever impose on yourself. If you compare yourself to other people and put them on a pedestal, you'll minimize yourself. If you compare yourself to other people and put them in the pit, you'll exaggerate yourself. And that's a dysmorphic view of yourself. But if you put them in your heart, you'll honor yourself. And that's where you have the highest probability of sustainable, fair exchange to remunerate yourself for doing something you love doing that serves people. So give yourself permission to shine, not shrink, and to radiate, not gravitate, and to go out and do something that's meaningful that you really, really love to do. I was in a Krugersdorp prison in South Africa, speaking to 1,000 inmates, 3 stories underground in maximum security prison. Okay. The headlines that day in the newspaper, Demartini returns to prison, classic PR. So I'm saying this, and I asked, how many of you, no matter what you've been through, gone through, etc., how many of you deep inside want to make a difference? Every hand went up within a half a billionth of a second. I mean, it was spontaneous across the room. It's innate within us that we want to make a difference, but we can't make a difference fitting into everybody else and being second at somebody else. We can only make a difference by following the most unique hierarchy of values we have and living congruently accordingly. If we do, we'll give permission for other people to have a chain reaction of doing the same.
Beautiful. So beautiful. I could do this every morning. Chat to you every morning. I feel like I have a light of inspiration shining from within. And I hope everyone listening has that same feeling. You certainly do have a way of inspiring, motivating, enlightening people with your words and with your teaching. So I am beyond grateful that you continue to share this in this epic way every single day of your life for all of us to, gain your magic.
Wow. They say that you cannot see, this is written even in biblical times. I think Romans 2:1 is talking about that whatever you judge in other people is you. So whatever you see in me, you're seeing in you. You're doing the same. We're doing it together. So thank you.
That brings a tear to my eye. That really does. Thank you. So special. Let's do this again next month. Hey?
Well, I look forward to our next adventure together.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you again, Dr. Demartini.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favourite listening platform.